make sure we can share that with everybody else. And
Worst case
maybe,
scenario, we can record the girls' session too.
Yeah, it's
okay.
recording on my computer right now.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, Rabia, take it away.
So what is the SAT test? So SAT, it stands for Scholastic Aptitude Test. So basically what this test is going to do is measure how ready you are for college. It tests you in math, it tests you in reading, and it tests you in language and grammar. And SAT, at least before, and this year it'll be a little different, I'll get into that, but it affects your college admissions and your scholarship opportunities. So when you're applying to colleges, a lot of colleges will ask you for your SAT score. If you're applying for scholarships, especially most of them, if not all, will ask you for your SAT score, and you will have to send that. So just be aware of that. So here's a breakdown of the SAT and on the bottom right over here. So we have the reading section. Reading section is the longest section. It's 65 minutes, and it makes sense because you're going to be reading a lot of long passages. You have 1 hour and 5 minutes to answer 52 questions. That's about 75 seconds per question. And I know that sounds pretty tough, but we'll get more into that in testing tips. But that's the first section. Then you have a writing and language section. That's 35 minutes. It's not as long as the first one, and you have 44 questions. Excuse me. So you'll have about 48 seconds per question. Moving on to math. So math, you're going to have two sections, one without a calculator and one with a calculator. The no calculator one comes first. You'll have 25 minutes to answer 20 questions. Sorry. So that's a little bit more time than the reading and the grammar, because it is math and you're going to be having to solve functions and do operations. Then you have math with calculator. This is longer because you are given a calculator. You'll have 55 minutes to answer 38 questions. So you have the most time to do each question in that section. That's about 87 seconds per question. So I know on this it says essay, which is optional. This year they have officially canceled the essay. So because of COVID and because that has changed so many things, you will not be taking the essay section this year. So you guys, you shouldn't even have to worry about that right now.
So let's talk about preparing. This can look different for everyone, but this is a basic outline of the best way to practice for the SAT. I'm also going to start off by saying that this is not a test where you can just cover all the material. It's not like a unit test where you have all the subjects and you practice them and you memorize the facts. Unfortunately, it covers a lot more material. And it's based on how well you can practice the concepts that you learned throughout high school. So there's going to be geometry on there. There's going to be algebra, a little bit of pre-calc, even some trigonometry. And majority of those stuff you should have covered in school, but we'll talk about how that might affect your practice as well. The best way to start is having a starting point, which is to take a practice test or to use your PSAT test, which is a practice SAT. And based off of that, you want to figure out, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, what do I have to work on? What's the easiest, and then you want to set your target score. So if you're aiming for the Detroit Promise, 1060 is a great place to start, but you also want to be realistic. For example, if I'm at a 700 and I want to be at an 1100 within a few months, that might not be as realistic. The biggest jump you're going to have in your score is in the first few months that you're studying. But as you score higher, you start to score higher, it gets harder to increase your score. So just keep that in mind. So I still think that 1060 is a good place. It's very achievable, whether you're at 900, 700, whatever your score is, it's pretty achievable. And it guarantees, if you're eligible for the Detroit Promise, for example, it guarantees a good scholarship. So once you have your test, you want to analyze your results, figure out what your mistakes are. Every time you take a practice test or anytime you practice for the SAT, you want to go through your results and look at your mistakes. You need to understand, okay, this is how I solved the problem. What's the proper way to solve it? And what did I miss? And you want to rework it. did I get it right for the right, if you get something right, did you get it right for the right reasons? What that means is, if you're doing a geometry problem and you just guessed because the angles kind of look right, that's not getting it right for the right reasons. You need to understand, okay, I divided the right way, I multiplied, what did I do? I'm sorry, what do I need to do to get the right answer? And then you want to identify your weak points or the subjects that you're struggling the most in. For a lot of people, it usually ends up being math, or reading, whatever it is. And then you want to focus on those targeted weak subjects. And the thing that I always say is, where can you, what's the subject or the type of math topic that you can see the most growth or point increase? For example, if you have a strong base in algebra, but you're struggling slightly in that, maybe the first month you put all of your energy, or like 60% of your energy, in focusing on that, because you have a good foundation and you can get a good point increase by just improving slightly or learning like 2 new concepts. Okay. And then the last aspect is to practice. If you can, you should be practicing on a daily basis, or at least 5 times a week. 5 times a week. It's all about consistency. This test is about how much you can practice those skills, make them better, and it builds off of each other. Like I said, this is not something that you can put this off and study a week before the exam. And then take practice tests as often as you can to see your growth. Every week, take it like Rabia mentioned, the different times. Take a reading test in 65 minutes. And then repeat this process over and over again, so that you can see how your skills are building, whether your points are, your score is increasing, and what you need to work on next.
Hey, Reem, could you go back just?
Mhm.
Could you just give them a little information about what the Detroit Promise Scholarship is, if they haven't heard about it?
Yeah, for sure. So the Detroit Promise Scholarship, you're eligible for it. Doesn't mean you'll automatically get it, but you're eligible for it if you live in Detroit, and you attended a school in Detroit for all 4 years. So if you live in Detroit and you go to Frontier, you've already met 2 of the criterias. And then I believe there's a GPA requirement. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's above like 2.5. Rabia can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would check with Miss Bushra. And then you need a SAT score of 1060. If you have all those requirements, then the Detroit Promise will pay for your college tuition if you apply to certain colleges. And if you guys have any other questions, we'll talk about it at the end too.
And I just wanted to add, just to give you an idea of what a 1060 is, the SAT is graded on a scale of 400, which is the lowest you can get, like if you answer no question right, which obviously none of you guys will get. So it's 400 to 1600. That's the maximum score. A perfect score would be a 1600. So that's where a 1060 is on that scale. Like Reem said, it's very achievable with practice, no matter where you are.
Average, or like the average American student score, is between 1100 and 1200. That means you're prepared for college based off of the test. So if you score below that or above that, that's just an indication of you. It doesn't, we'll talk about that more too.
Yeah. So during COVID, things have changed a lot. We can speak from personal experience. So in registering, you guys are automatically registered for a school-wide SAT in the spring. It's usually in May. So that one you don't have to worry about registering for. But let's say you're not happy with your score, or you want to keep trying and see how good you can get with more practice. So you can also take it on your own and register on your own time over the summer, in August and July, and also fall and winter of the next school year. So you can also take it in September, October, November, December. You can keep taking it as many times as you want. So you will have to register through College Board on their website for whichever session works best for you. You can ask Ms. Busher for a fee waiver, because otherwise you will have to pay for the extra SATs that you want to take. Only the school one is paid for, but you can get a fee waiver from Ms. Bushra, and then that will cover the cost. And be aware that when we, at least this past year in 2020, there were a lot of cancellations going on during when the pandemic was at its worst. So our school-wide SAT that we were supposed to take in May, we didn't get to take it. And then a lot of us registered over the summer. so we could try to take it in July and August and September, and all of them got canceled. We had people, I know Reem did this, she had to drive to Ohio to take it where they had open seats because it was just either you register and then like 2 weeks before or even like a week before the test day, they would have to cancel it because it just wasn't safe. But remember, I think you guys will be better off with this because the vaccine is, rolling out and it won't be as bad this year, but just be aware of that. And remember, the SAT that you're going to take this year at the end of the school year is not the end all be all. You can take it again as many times as you want. You can take it during your senior year. We all did that. We all took an SAT during our senior year. So don't worry about that, but just be aware. School-wide SAT is covered, and then you can get a fee waiver for Bushra to take additional tests.
So just to talk a little bit about what test day is going to look like, even though it's kind of far away. Like Rabia said, I had to drive out of state in order to take the exam. Ohio has less strict COVID restrictions, so it was easier to guarantee a seat there. And a lot of places canceled because, first of all, schools weren't open, right? And they just didn't want to have that responsibility of having the test there, and it just got really complicated. So if you are going to be taking a test this year, what it's most likely going to look like is you're going to have to wear a mask. I think the same protocols are going to be in place, 6 feet distance. And I think me and Rabia talked about this in terms of it being like a safe COVID environment. It was pretty safe. They take the distance thing very seriously. The desks are right apart. You're not sitting directly next to someone. So as someone who's worried about COVID, having older parents, I didn't feel unsafe going into a test center. For the most part, it was pretty well taken care of. But because you're most likely going to be required to take a mask, as you get closer to your test date, practice wearing one. I know it kind of seems weird to do that, but you want to practice what your test situations get. You want to practice in the same exact situation that you're going to be tested in. So that's why it's really important to wear a mask, for example, while you're practicing. It's actually harder. It's a little harder because you're breathing in your breath the whole time. It's weird. Sometimes your mask might fall off. It's fidgety. It's uncomfortable. And by practicing, you're taking care of that. You're preparing yourself to be to kind of expect that your mask is going to be uncomfortable and to kind of figure that out. Another thing I also want to say is if you are going to be taking your SAT during senior year, make sure that you take it at least 2 months before the deadline for your applications. SAT results take at least 4 to 5 weeks to get processed and then released. So if you're taking it in January, let's say you're taking it on January 4th, and the deadline for Wayne State's application is February 1st, you're cutting it really close. And even if your results are released, let's say January 28th, by the time, even if you send it to the school, they might not open it for weeks on end. So just keep that in mind when you're scheduling your SATs during senior year.
And also another note, could you go back, please?
Yeah.
So as vaccines come out, what we would expect is that it'll get easier to find a test center. Like, I don't think you guys will face the same amount of cancellations that we had to, because schools are opening up, and with the vaccines, things are becoming safer, and it will probably be easier for you guys. And the overall experience will stay the same. Again, it'll just be the masks that'll be different, and that can be a little, it can be a little annoying if you're not used to wearing a mask for that long, because remember, you're going to be there for like about 4 hours straight testing. So just be aware of that. And if you do want to take it again after the school SAT, remember, and you have to be prepared to like go to the test location itself, because you won't be provided transportation. So you might have to go downtown Detroit, take it at a school there, might have to take it at Macomb Community College or here in Grosse Pointe, wherever it is. Just be prepared to have to go there and take it and also come back.
Also, one last thing to add about cancellations. I still expect there to be some, but not to the level that me and Rabia had to deal with. We literally stalked the College Board website. Like, we were on there every single day. As soon as a seat opens up, it fills up quick. So as soon as you see an opening in Detroit, for example, save that, like register for it, because you really like expect the unexpected. Basically, seats go like this. Literally, me and my sister were registering. We just said we're going to wait an hour to talk to our parents, figure out transportation. By the time we came to register again, there was one seat left. So it's a little risky.
Yeah, and capacity is already lower because of COVID. They can't have as many kids in the same class. So just be aware. If you see a spot, grab it before somebody else does.
Yeah. So let's talk about college admissions. And if you guys are interested, we can do a more in-depth presentation about college admissions, maybe towards the end of your junior year, because it does help to prepare for them from now. So what's something that happened during COVID is that a lot of colleges started to do a test optional route, which basically means that you don't have to have test scores in order to apply. Now, here's the thing about test optional schools, or even just the application process. It's not better to have an SAT score, and it's not worse, but it doesn't necessarily. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't having a test score might improve your chances because that's just the system that they're used to. But either or, by them opening the option, it's a little hard to tell, whether you have that advantage or not. Now, what I'm also going to say is that the whole purpose of the SAT is to, it's going to sound weird, but it's to like weed out students. It's to see who is able to be in what colleges and who has, at the end of the day, that's the whole purpose of it, is to put people at different, to see people's different levels and see where they can apply and stuff. So by not having that test optional, by having that test optional route, it does, even the playing field a little bit. But it gets really confusing when it comes to merit scholarships. Merit scholarships are scholarships based off of your SAT or your GPA, just based on your overall performance. For example, I'm not sure how the Detroit Promise does their scholarship without SAT scores. Like I said, that was the how they measured things before. So it's just, I think it's harder to get scholarships without an SAT score because, like Rabia said, that's just how universities and organizations have been doing it for so long. So if you can, try your best to take the test. And if you can't, schools are also very, very forgiving this year. So you can do the test optional route. You can blow them away with your essay writing and make sure to put a lot of effort into that. So there's alternative routes. But like I said, there's no way to see how things are leaning with a test optional or with a test score.
So Reem has put together this amazing Google Doc that she has a link for. I think, do you want to send it in the chat so they can take a look at it?
Yeah, I can also press it right now and you can go through it.
Yeah, so yeah, just open it up real quick. So she'll send this in the chat and you guys can like make your own copy, do whatever you want with it. There's tons of links on there of how, studying tips, how to prepare. There's general practice. It's also, yeah, she has it also organized by subject, math, reading. Yeah, it's awesome. She found everything out there that you could possibly find, and that makes it a lot easier for you guys. There's free SAT books, classes that you can join to help you prepare. And then at the end, I think you have like a R tip. Yeah, it says R tips. So just from personal experience, these are some tips and tricks that we would give you. So yeah, she'll send this in the chat. You want to go back? Yep.
Yeah.
So she'll send that at the chat. And just remember that I know we've been saying that colleges will be looking at it and they'll be considering it, but just know that it does not completely reflect how smart you are. Like we said, the test measures how ready you are for college. And it takes a while to prepare for college because high school is different than college. So it does not mean that you're not smart or anything like that if you don't score where you want to score. It's a very specific test that measures how ready you are for college. And a big part of SAT is how good you are at taking the test. Some people, they are just not good at taking the test because, first of all, there's like a time limit. You have to answer a lot of questions in a specific amount of time. Like, for example, on the math section, let's say you get a question, you have no idea how to solve it. But let's say, like, you have to know the difference. Like, at what point do I just kind of just give my educated guess and move on. Otherwise, I'm wasting too much time, or should I spend a few minutes trying to solve it? You're going to have to make those decisions. And a lot of the time, it'll be a new thing for you guys, but that's why we tell you to practice with a timer, because right now you guys are not used to that. You'll have like a whole class hour to take your test, and it's usually not that long, but you're going to have a minute or less to answer each question. So you guys need to practice with a timer if you want to do well on that, because that's really something you have to get used to. So just study, and remember, it's not a complete reflection of you as a student. There's so many other things that colleges consider. They look at your GPA, especially your grades and classes. Those reflect also really heavily on you. They look at your extracurriculars, what kind of clubs are you joining? And a big thing this year is, because a lot of students are not taking the SAT, is the essay. You do really well on your essay as well. If you don't want to send your SAT score, if you write a really good essay, you'll be better off. And you have teachers who are willing to peer edit. You can ask your friends, ask your English teacher, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help you out and give you tips. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help on that.
I'm also going to say there's so many resources online. Like, this whole document is just stuff I found on YouTube. If you Google enough, you really hit like jackpots. Like, for example, this is literally a free SAT class, and every month they do it over and over again. Even some of the organizations that you have to pay for that, like Princeton Review and Kaplan, do classes for $1,000, but they have free resources, free tests, free events. And like Rabia said, strategy is actually a big part of preparing for the test. If you understand those SAT strategies, like this section, there's a whole playlist just on that. If you understand when to skip the next question, what to do if you don't have questions that you didn't answer. So keep that in mind when you're practicing as well. I'll share this once I'm done sharing my screen. I'll share this in the chat. And like I said, I think me and Rabia also talk about this a lot. Don't give, like, as important as this is, even if you totally fail, even if you bomb it, it's not the end of the world. Like, we're very lucky in America, honestly, to have so many opportunities that, you can still advance, you can still learn more, even if it's community college, even if it's at Wayne State, even if you don't meet your goal of even going to Wayne State, there's so many options. And that just, like, if you bomb it, it's not the end of the day. Like, you can always move on. It's all about just learning and pushing yourself at the end of the day.
And I would say, like, one of the untold secrets of SAT is there's a lot of guessing. I'm going to tell you right now. If you go back and look at like an SAT test that I took, you'll see like I crossed out one of the options. I had like 3 options open. I don't know which one it is. I just guess and move on because of that. Remember, you're timed, and a lot of the time you're just going to have to guess. And you basically have to get better at guessing and making educated guesses, really just ruling out answers, what you would do on a regular test, but just be able to do it quicker. That's a big part of it. Like we said, test strategies are a big thing. So yeah, anybody have any questions? You can put them in the chat, or just please raise your hand. We really want to keep us organized. I don't want people talking over each other. So
you guys can always reach out to me or Rabia. But Ms. Busher is a great resource. She's easy to contact. And if you feel more comfortable with her, but we might give you the student experience if that's what you want. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and share the link really quick.
So yeah, you can always contact us through our school emails, same format as you guys, first name dot last name at GEE. I don't see any questions.
One came in privately. I don't know if it's by mistake. One student is asking if it's going to take the SAT in our school. I don't have the answer to that yet. But you will know, and I will actually try to find out and email all the juniors especially to see what's going to happen. We just, at this point, we simply don't know, but I will keep everyone posted. We usually do anyhow. So that's the only question I see. I see a bunch of thank yous.
You're welcome, guys.
And I will say this, ladies, and for the students that are here, this is probably one of the better presentations I've seen, and I've seen a lot of presentations on a professional level from a bunch of people. Sometimes I'm glad we recorded it, and we're recording it because if we let the students speak, often we find out the best way to do it. So you two, Rabia and Reem, I'm so proud because you've covered this top to bottom, and you were realistic at the same time. You were not too, you were not telling them anything they shouldn't hear. You did not give them too much hope. You didn't also make them fear this test. I felt like you covered this exactly the way it should be covered, and I think coming from you, it means a lot more than coming from me. I remember I stood there in the classroom, talked, and mentioned some of a few of the things you mentioned, but I think it just has a different echo coming from you, especially that we all know how much effort you put in. It's evident. And I thank you for what you did. And I thank you for the documents, Reem, and for everything you prepared. I think that's a great resource. And if you don't mind, I want to share it also on our social media platform just to encourage things like this for the future generations as well, and students to follow the lead.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I
Yeah, we
think,
really wanted to give students a look into the test from a student point of view because when we were going through junior year, we had an SAT prep class, but a lot of the time what we hear from teachers, to be honest, is they'll tell you, if you study enough, you're going to do great. Or if you don't do great, it's like, you just got to keep studying. And a lot of the time, that's just not the case. Like I said, not everyone is good at taking the test like that. Not everyone even needs SAT. A lot of people, they don't really care for SAT. And if you're going on a different route, whatever your goal is, you might not even need it. So it's different for everyone. Just don't stress about it. And if you I promise you that if you practice, I will tell you this, if you actually genuinely practice and put effort, you will reach your goal, whatever your goal is on the scale of the score, on the test
I
scale.
Also,
really,
Yeah,
no,
any
go ahead, Mr.
questions?
Malkovich.
Yeah, go ahead,
no, I
sorry.
really think you guys put it, or you ladies put it in the best context. I mean, it's realistic as it is. The way you portrayed the information, what you're saying right now, what Reem said during the presentation, both of you, it's exactly the way it should be told. The story should be told in this context, in this way about the SAT. And I think giving people false hope or making people think it's easy or too hard is really careful choosing your words. And I really appreciate it. I think it's the best we can ask for.
I'm also just going to say, just to reemphasize Rabia's point, studying is important, but knowing how to study is even more important. This, like I said, it's not a traditional test. You're not just covering um, material that's all related to each other. You're studying almost four different types of subjects, four different. You need to learn techniques for each section. That it's a little intimidating to start, and I'm gonna be very honest with you. I hated studying for it. I had to drag my feet every time to do it. But at the end of the day, just even if you don't meet your goal, just knowing that you did your best um, is very fulfilling. Like you did your best, you threw out, like you put your shot out, you applied, and at the end of the day, that's all you can really do. So yeah.
I think this will
So
also. We actually had a discussion with Mr. Sanai about the future of this SAT. Right now, we don't have any, but like taken from what Rabia said and what I actually saw myself, the way they were conducted in the past, I don't think it was the best practice. Perhaps some of this, what you're telling us right now, might do us some service to take in consideration when we have those classes in future that we plan on having, that they are the most useful. And it's not just, it doesn't have to be a typical class. It can be something outside of the regular norms of the classroom, as long as it's going to be useful to you. So meaning that you have that 1 hour of SAT practice, that you're actually practicing for SAT. That's something that's going to be right away. The seeds are going to grow right away into a good practice, and then our students are ready to take the test, which is that would be the goal of that class. And you're so right. We missed it a few times, and we'll try to get that improved, because we already had that discussion earlier, and I spoke on behalf of my students, used some of the same terminology you just said regarding how it was conducted.
So we had a question in the chat that said, I hate studying. Give me advice. So, Reem, you want to start us off? Try to answer that question. I can relate to that
honestly,
though. I'll
the
tell you
hardest
that.
part
I can relate.
is starting just the process. Like once you get over that that hill, and you just start that, like literally it takes like an ounce of motivation just to get over that hill. And then it gets easier as you go on because you're not as intimidated by everything. You've had a little bit of exposure. You kind of see what it entails. So it does get a little bit easier, but it's the test is frustrating. Like it's sometimes you feel like you don't know anything, you didn't learn anything. So it does get frustrating, but um, that positive attitude is just saying, I'm going to try my best. Whatever happens, I'm just going to try my best. I'm going to keep going. Um, that's the only way that you could really keep going.
Uh,
Yeah, and trust me, once you start practicing and you take like practice tests online, you'll slowly, as the more you practice, you'll see like your score on those practice tests going up a little bit, and that will definitely motivate you even more. Because if you can see the numbers going up and you see results in front of you, you will be more motivated. But yeah, we totally understand because we were in the same spot and it's not fun. Trust me, I know it's
maybe a
not
good
fun, but
advice
just
there is to also have someone to study with, even online now. I mean, you can go and join the same session, few students at a time, and tackle so many questions. Like make a goal, break it down. We want to tackle 10 questions, time ourselves, see how to think about them, come back, retry it again. I mean, always it's easier in a group. Of course, set some norms. If you just come together and you start joking around and you're misusing the time, it's not going to work. But if you come in with the set of norms, here's what our goal is. We stick to this. If you're in, you're in. If you're out, you don't join us. If you're going to joke around, and I get to the bottom of it, you'll be fine. I mean, I think that's one way to help out because it's always easier with someone else there to share and of course you have to leave some room for independent test taking just to see after some time did you progress.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any other questions? Don't be shy. Go ahead and ask. This is what this session is for. We want to answer as many questions as we can while we're here. And while you have us here, it'll make it easier. So just you can raise your hand or put it in the
Are we
chat.
take
And also,
are we
yeah,
taking
go
the
ahead.
SAT this year or next year?
Technically
Marcus?
most of our juniors take it in the junior year as well, and then they have a chance to take it in the senior year, especially if they feel like they want to improve their score. But again, I need to see with Walid what are going to be options with this COVID restrictions and whatnot. I believe the way things are looking now, just my gut feeling, that in spring we should be able to uh, take it. I don't know if it's for sure, but we already took one earlier when it was worse, so I would assume we would be able to. So I don't want to run before I
Yeah.
know for sure, but that's just my gut feeling.
We took one back in October, I think, right?
Yeah, if you're a
I think that's
junior,
when us
Mohammed, if
seniors
you're a
took it.
junior, you will be informed. But again, make sure you guys get used to the idea of checking your email. Last time we had SAT, we had kids who didn't check their emails, came late. I had to send them home because they thought they could just come in 10 minutes later and join the classroom. I told them no, because in the emails that I sent out, I specifically said, you're either here or we're going to move on without you, because we have to stick to some norms and improve the way we do things to make it better. So just keep an eye on your email and make sure you attend to the details of the email, which is what I didn't do this morning when I was late for a few minutes.
But yeah, to answer your question, Habib, yeah, it's usually April, the school SAT, because school SAT is usually different than when College Board will tell you online. The school holds it under a separate date. You're welcome. Somebody said thank you. And what I would do is just in your mind, in your head, be mentally prepared to take it this year in the spring, which would mean that I heavily advise you guys to start trying to practice now.
Yes.
Start trying to motivate yourself and just start now, and hopefully you'll be able to take it this year and then also have the opportunity to retake it again in the summer and fall next year if you want to.
Yes. Indeed. That's
You can take it up to 6 times. Yeah.
yeah.
And then
This
with the
is
free waivers, I think you can get like 3 free exams. So, I mean,
Yeah,
in my
you get like 3
experience,
free tests from one.
yeah, in my experience, people don't usually take more than that. Like I said, you can only increase so much, but definitely if you can take it again, like having that free waiver, maybe you woke up with a headache that day or you were just really nervous. If you take it again, you're already more comfortable with the exam, so it ends up might have like a better experience.
And just to give you an idea. I took it twice, and I got the same exact score the second time. So it does get a little harder to go up after you take it once, but yeah, you can improve.
I improved.
People have
Yeah, I
improved.
went up like
Yeah, Reem improved
20 points, which is a big deal. Because also some schools do something called super scoring. So if you've taken it more than once, they'll take your best math score and your best reading score, so that they can help you in getting like a higher SAT score.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Somebody asked the highest score you could get or latest test took. I'm guessing you're asking what's the highest possible score. The highest you could get is a 1600. And yeah, the average is 1100 to 1200. And remember, for Detroit Promise Scholarship, it's 1060 is your goal. Is somebody gonna ask something? Somebody unmuted.
He actually meant like say you take multiple tests, right? But Reem already answered his question.
Oh, okay, yeah. They take your highest. Don't worry. Yeah, don't be scared
Nice.
thinking
Not
if I
every
go
school
down.
does though. Like for example, I think Wayne State doesn't take your highest score. I mean, doesn't super score. So you just submit your highest score overall. So like for example, if test 1 you scored 1100, that was your highest, and the second time you took it you scored a 1060, then you would submit your higher one. But like U of M and Arbor, for example, ask you to submit both of your like if you scored higher in math in one of the tests, they'll ask you to submit both of them. So if we do another session about college admissions, we can go more in depth about this. But sometimes it might not make sense to send a lower, like both scores if you scored much lower, for example.
Yeah.
Speaking of U of M, Rabia here is admitted or right to U of M. Congratulations on that part.
Thank you. Thank you
I
so
think
much.
that is well deserved. Well deserved. Again, I thank both of you and the students that actually came. This is actually pretty good. 24 students is not bad for the first time. I also want to thank you for volunteering for a lifetime to do this every year for us. I mean, we'll just call it, I don't know, we'll give it a name and then we can just roll
it. Won't be the student experience anymore. You're going to have kids from this class
Yeah.
doing it next year.
We're going to be like graduate students telling you guys.
You will have to, we'll just have to do a traditional thing where you guys will have to pick the successors. And I'll be the middle guy just there, and it's the two of you, and just pick the next two, and then they have to give the torch to the next one, and so on.
That's
and eventually we'll have like the reunion day or something.
Yeah, we're supposed to be passing.
I don't know if I want to come back.
Right.
Yeah, you can just see, you know, if I'm like 60 or something, I'm still sitting here like, Rabia, I remember in 2000, and
let's see if you still remember our names at least.
I'll try. Okay.
Teachers will forget you like 2 years down the line, so
I know.
when you're 60, 70.
Yeah, some people you don't forget that easy though. Let's be honest. So yeah. I think you guys fall on that list.
So just a quick question I wanted to ask everyone. You can raise your hand or just say something in the chat. Would you guys be interested in us doing a more in-depth presentation about college admissions or applying to colleges later on in the year towards the end before you guys leave? I hear it. One yeah and one sure. Yes, okay. So yeah, that's definitely something we want to do. How do you submit your scores? So when you log into, you're gonna have to make a College Board account, of course. When you log into your College Board, when you go to your test score area where you would where you find out your score, it'll give you an option to send your score. You can send them to, I think it's unlimited, Reem, right? With your test it's included, you can send it to as many colleges.
So if you do a free waiver, then yes. But if you don't have a free waiver, you're paying for each score that you send, and it can add up. So like if they give you the option to like send it right away, or send it directly to the college, but I wouldn't do that just because I would wait to see my score, see if I want to take it again, figure out kind of the game plan before like I send it off. So that's something that I did. But yeah, you would do it from the College Board, website.
Yeah, and remember just to be aware of which colleges will take your highest and which ones are you going to have to send specific scores to, because like for Wayne State, yeah, like she said, just you in the SAT in the College Board like dashboard area, it'll give you an option. Do you want to send all scores or do you want to pick your score? And then you're like, okay, I want to pick my score and you want to send your highest. And then for other ones, you can send all, just depending on what you think you need.
There's some names for your show.
R squared. I knew it. I saw that one coming.
Well, I have to be, right? So good
R&R.
stuff. R and R,
I
yeah.
wouldn't call it R&R because rest and relaxation and SAT don't go together.
The R squared has some math in it. That's cool.
Reem, they're asking, do you want to share scores or?
No, it's pretty private.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's not, you shouldn't have to. Look, you guys have
Normally,
to.
so I'll be honest with you, if I wasn't so scarred from the experience, maybe if you ask me in a few years, I'll be comfortable. But just like we said, it holds a lot of weight, just because you're in it right now. But as you get older, you'll be like, that was just whatever.
Experience
It doesn't matter anymore.
experience is priceless, guys. I mean, I really don't think you should be stuck so much on the number. You go through the experience, and believe me, if you're entering college, even if you do bad, that experience of learning how to study, learning how to take information, how to approach problems, you will still come out stronger, better for you. So the test, like they said, is not about how smart you are. It's just about your test taking skills and what you can do in certain set amount of time. So the reason you practice is to be more exposed, so that come the test, you can do better and score higher, and then you have some benefits to having the higher scores. So, but you shouldn't dwell on
Because,
that. Just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride
yeah,
and the study.
the reason we wouldn't want to do that because what happens a lot is I myself did this. Like I would focus way too much just on the number. I wasn't focusing on am I learning, what can I do to improve my experience. So don't focus too much on the number. It's all about your personal goal. It's all about yourself. We don't want you comparing your score to other people or aiming because you think it'll look better. Just, look at the colleges you want to go to if you want to go to one. You can check online. They'll tell you like what is the average score for somebody going here, and from that or from your PSAT score, you could set a goal for yourself and just focus on your own goal and work towards that. Because focusing too much on the number, it's gonna mess with you. Trust me, it's gonna.
And that's and
And
that's
then
a common.
when you kind of don't do better, when you don't do as good as you thought you would, it's worse if you're
Mm.
really focusing too much on the goal.
Plus, most of the kids, if you remember, even after any test, especially I taught math, so it's like, what did you get? What did you get? Instead of looking at what problems they did wrong and what was the problem, why did they make a mistake, how they can improve it. This is why a lot of students stay in that, kind of a same level, because they don't look at what they can do to improve those questions they did wrong. What does it matter if the person next to me got 100%, that I got 40? I might be a few questions away from understanding, being able to answer more than one questions correctly, but I'm not, focused on that. So therefore, I think focusing on numbers is wrong. Looking at what other people did or not isn't going to change anything for you. Focus on the areas that you need to improve on after you take those practice tests. If it's math, you can go more than that and say, okay, which parts in math did I have a hard time on? Is it geometry? Is it trigonometry? Is it what questions? What is it? Story questions, whatnot? And you can take more of those and hopefully get ready to improve that score. I think that's the way to
Yeah.
approach it.
If you practice like through the College Board and Khan Academy, how they're like put together, it'll tell you specifically what you need to work on. And something I did, it sounds silly in my head, but after I took the test, like especially for the math questions, I would like try my hardest to remember exactly what the question was that I didn't know, so that later I would know and I could like look into it, because I remember I would get questions about like arc and radians, and I was like, I have no idea what this is. So if you kind of remember that, and as you go home, as you're leaving, you can kind of like you'll remember and you're like, okay, let me look into that. And then next time, I did have a positive experience with this. Like I looked into it, and the next time I took the test, I knew what to do about certain things. So definitely just focus on with when you're practicing, what don't I know? Forget about the number, look at the concepts. Because if you understand the concept, automatically you will improve because you'll be able to do those questions and get them done instead of having to guess.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, honestly, I learned this hard. I had to learn this in college. I'll be honest with you. I think I've shared this with you or my students. You probably know already, but I wasn't going into the college as a highly performing student. It was just an average student, especially coming from war-torn country, lived in 2, 3 different countries before finally settling here, learning a new language, attending 2 years of high school, so it's not much time to prepare for college. And then when you go there, you realize, wow, you're way behind. Sometimes you feel like you didn't understand something. But I'll tell you what, you just have to understand that no problem, whether it's math or no question, so to speak, that you cannot learn something about it. You just have to realize it might be just some vocabulary you're not understanding. You're trying to avoid looking it up. You just want to go to the question and answer it. You want to analyze and study what is the question about, so that one question might prepare you for 10 more in future. And if you tackle learning from that perspective, you will do much better. I know it helped me a lot when I just realized it cannot be bigger than me. I mean, I'm missing something. What is it that I'm missing? So I would go dig, zoom out and see the question from a bigger perspective, so I can learn it and try to answer it in the way that I know I understand the problem. I understand what it's asking. I understand what I have. I understand what I don't have, and so many things. This way, you feel like you actually analyzed and did well. So that's just from my experience, that students often think that there are people who are just born. I mean, there are probably some who have, some things come easier for them. I think all of us have some of those qualities one way or another, but for the most part, we all have to work hard to get it.
Okay.
Just to wrap up really quickly, because it's been an hour, I'm just gonna say that at the end of the day, like this test, like to be very honest with you, kids from the suburbs are automatically going to score higher. They're going to score above the average, so this is also just a part of the way the education system works in America. It's obviously, we know that the system isn't great, so like just keep that in mind. At the end of the day, if you want to go to U of M Ann Arbor, you still have these opportunities. You can still do great regardless of the fact that you're from Detroit and Hamtramck. I feel like sometimes that weighs us down a little bit, and it's hard. Like, it's hard being in a space. All of my friends are from the suburbs, so seeing their SAT scores or seeing the way that the things that they learned, sometimes I was like, I'm not at their level. But it's all, at the end of the day, you can always make up for those things with other qualities, with other traits. Like, the SAT score, like we said, is not the end all be all. You can be an amazing writer. You can have amazing trade school skills. Like, there's so many other things that can make up who you are past this test. And once you go to college, it gets so much easier to be yourself and to learn the things that you actually want to learn and be interested in. So just think of the SAT as it's the final step of high school. Once you finish it and you do your best on it, regardless of what doors it opens up for you, you at the end of the day decide the opportunities that you want to go for and the doors that you want to open for yourself, if that makes sense.
And Reem, I will tell you, do not belittle in the future when it comes to work and opportunities for career. Believe me, the experience you're going through in this community and in this school and whatnot, all these differences, believe me, sometimes it prepares you a lot more for reality, because here you are being outgoing, taking the lead, and you're learning a lot more skills than you think you are. And I think in the long run, I've seen it pays dividends. So I'm proud of all the work you're doing, and keep it up, because it will pay off. And like you said, do not put your head down. None of these things matter. If you have the will and chances, opportunities will be in front of you. Okay, take the opportunities that are there. Don't waste them, and you will be just fine.
Okay.
Okay, so
Last
we're gonna.
call for questions, and I think we're good. Again, contact with Bushra for questions. You can also contact me or Reem through our school emails. Any questions you have, or just maybe an event. Maybe there's something you want to know more about, and you feel like, could you please organize something about this? We can try to do that as NHS people. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming though. I know a lot of people left, but thank you everyone for coming and staying for this long.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye,
You're welcome.
ladies.
Bye. Bye everyone.
Okay, good one.